All right, girls and boys, welcome back. We're looking at Module 6, Lesson 1, and the objective says that we're going to construct a coordinate system on a line. Let's take a look at number 1 here. It says each shape was placed on a point on a number line S. So the number line's name is S. That's a cursive S there. It says give the coordinate of each point below. So we have to identify where each shape falls on our number line S. So let's look at here. X, which is A, the first one, falls right here. And we see that X falls right at our number 3. You can see that the X is right at the 3. So we're just going to type that in. All right. Next is our star, which is B. Well, the star falls between our origin, which is 0, and our first point, which is 1 here. So we need to go ahead and take a look at that and say, well, I know that between 0 and 1, I have 1, 2, 3 parts. So each whole number has been split into thirds. So this will be 1/3. This star would be 2/3. So we're just going to write that in, and bear with me because I'm using a new computer and I don't have a pen tool. So I'm using my finger actually. So 2/3 is our fraction. It's at 2/3 of the whole. You can see that here. This will be 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Remember, one whole is equal to 3/3. So 3 jumps will be 3/3. We know we only went 2 jumps, so that's 2/3. Looking at C, which is our circle here. So we see that our circle falls between the whole number 2 and the whole number 3. Well, I know 2 is 1 jump away from our circle. So our circle would be 2 wholes and 1/3. All right, and finally D. D falls between 4 and 5. Excuse me, our square, which is D, falls between 4 and 5. I know this is 4, so that means 1 jump will be 4 and 1/3. 2 jumps will be 4 and 2/3. And this would be 4 and 3/3, which would equal 4 and another whole for 5. So we only wanted to go 2 jumps, 1, 2. So that's going to be 4 wholes and 2/3 of another whole. Pardon that, 3. All right, let's take a look at number 2 here. All right, so for number 2, they just ask us to plot the points on the number lines. So let's look at A. It says plot A so that its distance from the origin is 2. So I know that here's my origin, and they give me the number 3. So I have to say, well, A is going to be right here. So let's go ahead and plot that A so that it is right at our 2. This will be 0, 1, 2, 3, and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and look at number 2B, which is plot R so that its distance from the origin is 5 halves. So we know 5 halves would be equal to 2 wholes and 1 half. But in this case, we don't even have to change our improper fraction to a mixed number. We could just say, well, we know that this is 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves will be right here. All right, so let's go ahead and take that R and put it right at 5 halves. All right, 2C, it says plot L so that its distance from the origin is 20. Well, I see 50 here and I see 35. So I say, well, I also see that between 50 and 35, there are 1, 2, 3, or there's third, they're split into thirds. So if I skip count and I say, well, 35, 36, 37, 38, no, that doesn't make sense. And if I say 35, 40, 45, 50, I say, oh, okay, each tick mark represents 5. So I know that, and I'm just going to label a couple of these. I know that this would be 45. This would be 40. Then we have 35. That means this would be 30. So funny looking 30, but we'll take it. This would be 25. And our last tick mark here would be 20. All right. Now remember, our origin is not on this number line. Our origin would be all the way down here. We would have to go 15, 10, 5, and then 0 to get to our origin, way down here on this number line. But we're not concerned with that. We're just going and plotting our L so that it is 20 from the origin, and we know that 20 would be right there. All right. 2D, it says plot a point T so that its distance from the origin is 2/3 more than that of S. So 2/3 more than that of S. I notice here that on this number line, I have 4, and then I have 5 all the way out here. So I know, well, I say, well, it takes me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jumps to get from 4 to 5. So I know that this one hole from 4 to 5 has been split into sixths. That's THS at the end, right? So if I'm plotting a point that's 2/3 more than S, S is right here. I know that 1/3, pay attention to this. We have to say, well, 1/3 is equal to how many 6? And the way we did this in class, or at least my students did it, was take your fraction and say times what equals what. So now, given this fill in the blank here, I know that 3 times what equals 6, or I could say 6 divided by 3 equals what? I know my answer is going to be 2. And if I have a 2 in my denominator, I have to have a 2 in my numerator here, because this has to equal 1 whole for these numbers to be equivalent. Remember, I'm doing this with my mouse. So now I say, well, 1 times 2 equals 2. So then 1/3, pay attention, 1/3 is equal to 2/6. 1/3 is equal to 2/6. So this is saying that we have to plot a point T so that its distance from the origin is 2/3 more than S. So now if I say, well, 1/3 is 2 jumps, so that's 1, 2, that would be 1/3. I need to go 2/3, so I need to go double that and make it 1, 2 more jumps. So in essence, what we did was we answered this question here. If 1/3 is equal to 2/6, then 2/3 is equal to what? And it would be the same thing, times 2 times 2, so it would be 4/6. All right, so we know that our point T, bear with me here, point T is going to be right here. Put it on that side with the letters. All right, this would be 4, this would be 4 and 1/6, 4 and 2/6, which is equivalent to 4 and 1/3. This would be 4 and 3/6, 4 and 4/6, 4 and 5/6, 4 and 6/6. All right? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. All right, so for number 3, we have a number line that's G. We can see our number line is named G, and it says number line G is labeled from 0 to 6. Use number line G below to answer the question. So we're going to answer these questions A through F, and I already have my letters here just to plot them in most cases. So it says plot a point at 3/4. So 3/4. Normally we used to number lines going this way, starting with our origin 0 and counting up, but in this case we can see that it actually starts at 6 here and goes backwards. So we're saying 3/4. We know that 3/4 is less than a whole. If I was to write out my 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 is equal to a whole, we know that this is equal to 0 and this is equal to 1. So just with that common knowledge there that we have, we can say, well, we know that it's going to fall between 0 and 1, And we see that each one of our holes from 0 to 1 is split into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. It's partitioned with 3 lines, gives me 4 parts. So I know that that will be 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So I'm going to take and plot my A at 3/4. Go ahead and plot that 8 right there so that there's no confusion as to where A is. Put a dot on the tick mark as well. All right, so now it says label a point that lies at 4 1/2 as B. So we know that 4 is here. 4 1/2 is going to be directly in between 4 and 5. It's not, they don't have half marks, so we have to also know that 4 1/2 is equal to 4 2/4, right? Think about if we had, let me see if I can do this fairly quickly. Think about if we had 2 pizzas, all right? And pardon the orange cheese on the pizza. But if we had 2 pizzas, one of them was split into halves here. And one of them was split into fourths. Either way, if someone was to eat, just the 1/2 on this side, 1/2, the left half here, if we ate that, it would be the same amount as the person that ate the 2/4 on the left side of this pizza. So 1/2 is equal to 2/4. All right? So we know that we would label this as B. All right, now it says label a point C whose distance from 0 is 5 more than that of A. So we have to add 5 to the point of A. So what I'm going to do is add 5 to 1 and then take a fourth away. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I know it was here. So from 3/4 to 1 3/4, that's 1. And then to 2 3/4 is 2. 3 3/4 would be 3. 4 3/4 would be 4. And 5 3/4 would be 5. So I know that C would be right here, and it's 5 away from point A. All right, let's look at D. It says plot a point D whose distance from 0 is 1 1/4 less than that of B. So I have to go 1 1/4. So I know one hole, in this case, we partitioned it into fourths. So I'm just going to count 4 back. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then one more back equals 5/4 back. Because remember, 1 is equal to 4/4. That's one hole, right? Anything over itself equals a hole. And then we also had one additional fourth. So if we're going back from B, that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4/4 for my hole. And if you notice, it went from 4 1/2 to 3 1/2. And then I had one more fourth to go backwards. All right, so that's where my point is going to be for D. Last two, the distance from E from 0 is 1 3/4 more than D. So now we got to go 1 3/4. So I know 1 would, starting from my point D, which is 3 1/4. So 1 would be 4 1/4. And now I have to add 3 more fourths. So 1, 2, 3. So E is going to be right at 5. Everybody see how I did that? All I did was I started at D, and I know that D was 3 1/4. Make sure that you're reading your origin the correct way, because if the 0 was over on my left side and I was reading this number line from left to right, it would be different. All right, so now let's go ahead and, well, excuse me, we started at 3 1/4. We added 1 and went to 4 1/4. and we added 3 more fours. 1, 2, 3. To say that our E is at 5. All right, and finally for F, we have what is the coordinate of the point that lies halfway between A and D? So A is right here, and D is right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is count it and say, well, how many jumps from A to get to D? Let's go ahead and do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It takes me 10 jumps to get from A to D. So if A was traveling to meet up with D, it would take him 10 jumps. A said, I don't want to come all the way. Meet me halfway. So what's half of 10? Hopefully you said 5. So if A jumped 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and D jumps 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they will both meet up at 2. And we're going to label 2 F. All right, so this is our problem set. I did not do 4 and 5. I want you to do that on your own, and we'll go over that as a whole group tomorrow. If you are not in my class, then give it 4 and 5 a look, and let me know what you think about in the comments. And I challenge you. I had somebody who sent me a request to do a problem, and I did that. So if you have any questions or problems that you want to see, regardless of the grade level, just reach out to me, and I'm more than willing to help you and walk you through the problem sets. As always, stay safe. Make sure you are continuing to learn. Knowledge is power. I'll see you on the next one.